I found a hidden door in my house, and someone was living there. I'm 28F, and my husband, 30M, and I just bought our first house 3 months ago. It's an older place, built in the 1920s, but it had charm, hardwood floors, stained glass windows, and lots of character. The price was suspiciously low, but we figured it just needed some work. Now I wish we'd never moved in it. Started with small, unexplainable things. Doors that were open would be closed when I came back. Lights I know I turned off would flicker back on. At first, I thought it was just the quirks of an old house, but then I started hearing noises. Footsteps in the attic, soft whispers in the walls. My husband said I was imagining it, but I could tell he was freaked out too. Last week, things got worse. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of creaking floorboards. I thought it was my husband, but when I turned over, he was still in bed, sound asleep. The creaking got louder, moving down the hall toward our room. I froze, clutching the blanket, too terrified to move. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The next morning, I decided to investigate. I went into the attic, armed with a flashlight. It smelled musty and stale, but everything looked normal at first. Then I noticed a section of the wall that didn't match the rest. It looked newer, like someone had recently patched it up. I tapped on it, and it sounded hollow. I grabbed a hammer and started chipping away at the plaster. Behind it, I found a small door. It was barely 3 feet high, like something out of a nightmare. My gut told me not to open it, but I had to know what was inside. When I opened the door, I found a narrow crawl space. It was dark, cold, and filled with the smell of decay. I shone my flashlight inside and saw a mattress, dirty and covered in stains. There were food wrappers scattered around, and the walls were covered in strange drawings, symbols I didn't recognize, scrawled in what looked like charcoal or blood. I backed away, my heart racing, and slammed the door shut. I ran downstairs to tell my husband, but before I could say anything, I saw it. On the kitchen counter was a Polaroid picture. It was a picture of me, taken that morning while I was sleeping. I felt sick. Someone had been in our room while we slept. That night, my husband and I barricaded ourselves in the bedroom. We called the police, who searched the house but found no one. They said the crawl space was probably used by squatters before we moved in, and told us to seal it up, but I know they're wrong. Whoever, or whatever, was in that crawl space isn't gone. The next morning we found another Polaroid on the counter. This time, it was a picture of the attic door, wide open. We haven't slept since. What would you do if someone was living in your house and you had no idea?